They say you can smell your mate before you see them, like coming home to a place you've somehow never been. Ella had always thought it was romantic nonsense, the kind of thing lonely singles whispered to themselves in the dark. She was about to learn she'd been catastrophically wrong, but first, she had to survive the worst night of her life. The Gilded Stag was loud, bright, and full of people who would be whispering about this by morning. Ella could feel their eyes on her, the pitying glances from the women, the uncomfortable shuffling from the men who'd probably placed bets on how long she'd sit there alone. 40 minutes now. Her wine had gone warm in the glass. Her date wasn't coming back. Of course he wasn't. Simon Hartley, with his silver tongue and empty promises, had probably laughed when he'd agreed to meet her. A blind date arranged by her well-meaning sister, who still believed Ella could find happiness despite everything. The Greythorn pack didn't know what to do with women like her, those without the shift, the rage, the wild magic that made them more than human. Her father had been beta once, before he died. Her mother had pretended she wasn't ashamed. But Ella could read between every carefully chosen word, every pitying embrace. She should leave. Stand up, hold her head high, and walk out of this tavern with whatever dignity she could scrape together. Instead, she reached for her wineglass and, without thinking, tucked her hair behind her ear. Her scar caught the firelight. Jagged and silver white, it ran from her left temple down across her cheekbone, ending just shy of her jaw. She'd gotten good at hiding it over the years, letting her dark hair fall forward, angling her face away in conversation, sitting in shadows whenever possible. But Simon had seen it earlier. She'd watched his expression change when she'd absently pushed her hair back during their conversation, his eyes tracking the damaged skin, his smile faltering. He'd made an excuse about the restroom 2 minutes later. The back door had creaked when he left for good. She'd heard it even over the din of the crowd. Ella let her hair fall forward again, a practiced motion. The humiliation was a living thing now, hot and squirming in her chest. She could hear the whispers starting, see heads turning. By tomorrow, everyone would know. Poor Ella Collins, abandoned again. Poor broken girl with her ugly scar and her missing wolf, thinking she deserved. The air changed suddenly. She felt it before she understood what it meant. A rise in pressure, a dip in temperature, as if something immense had just entered the room. The low hum of conversation seemed to pause, just for a heartbeat, as if the entire tavern had drawn breath at once. Ella looked up. At the corner table, shadowed by the great hearth and flanked by 2 massive warriors, a man was staring at her. Not glancing politely, not looking casually, staring. He was beautiful in the way a blade is, beautiful, all sharp edges and lethal grace, dark hair falling across his forehead. His eyes were storm gray, intense enough that she could see their color even across the crowded room. He wore black, simple but clearly expensive, and carried himself with the kind of authority that made people step aside without realizing they were doing it. The warriors beside him had gone still, their attention now locked on her as well. Ella's heart pounded against her ribs. The man stood, his chair scraped against the stone floor, and then he began walking toward her. The crowd parted. Ella watched him approach with a mixture of terror and confusion, her mind racing. Had she done something wrong? Was he offended that she was taking up a table alone? Was he... He stopped in front of her table. Up close, he was even more devastating. Tall enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes, broad-shouldered with the kind of controlled power that suggested violence was always just beneath the surface. His gaze dropped to her scar. Ella's breath caught, but he didn't flinch, didn't look away. His eyes traced the silver line with something that looked almost like fascination. Before we continue, please take 2 seconds to like this video. It tells me you want more stories like this. "You're alone," he said. His voice was dark smoke and whiskey, rough-edged. It wasn't a question, but Ella found herself answering anyway. Evidently, something flickered in his expression. Not pity. She would have hated pity. But something else. Recognition, maybe? "The man who left is a fool," he said simply. Ella blinked. "You saw him leave?" "I saw enough." He glanced over his shoulder at the whispering crowd, then back to her. His jaw tightened. "It's a small town. Everyone's hungry for a story to tear apart over breakfast tomorrow." "I'm aware." Her words came out tight, almost a whisper. Years of practice at being the town's favorite cautionary tale had taught her that much. He studied her for a long moment. Then, to her absolute shock, he pulled out the chair across from her and sat down, leaned back, settled into the space like he owned it, like he owned the entire tavern. "What are you doing?" Ella hissed. "Changing the story they'll tell tomorrow." He tilted his head slightly. "Unless you'd prefer to leave? I saw you considering it before I walked over." She had been, but something about the way he said it, not mocking, just observant, made her pause. "Why do you care what story they tell?" "I don't." His eyes held hers. "But you do." It was true, and she hated that he could see it. Hated that this stranger, this dangerous-looking man with his storm-gray eyes, had read her so easily. "I don't need rescuing," she said. "Good. I'm not offering rescue." He leaned forward slightly. "I'm offering a trade." "A trade?" "There are people in this tavern that need to see I'm unavailable." His voice dropped lower. "Play along with me tonight. Let them think you're mine. When we leave, I'll tell you why I really approached you." Ella stared at him. She had long learned that trades that seemed too good to be true always carried a hidden price. But as she searched his piercing eyes for hints of deception, she felt an unfamiliar heat crawl up her neck. She'd never been the type to fall for dangerous men with sharp smiles. She was too practical for that nonsense, making terrible decisions over a pretty face and broad shoulders. Yet something in the way he leaned closer, like he was sharing a secret meant only for her, made her pulse quicken in spite of every logical thought whispering at her to walk away. Her body was betraying years of good judgment, and she hated how much she was enjoying his company. "How do I know you're not worse than being stood up?" she asked finally. The corner of his mouth lifted, almost a smile. "You don't. But at least I showed up." "Touché." "What's your name?" she asked. He hesitated just for a second. "Jasper." She waited, but he didn't offer more. No family name, no pack affiliation, just Jasper. "Ella," she offered to fill the silence. "Ella Collins." "Ella." He said her name like he was tasting it. "So, do we have an arrangement?" The usual Ella would have said no. Walk away with whatever scraps of dignity she could manage, but something in his eyes made her want to be reckless. "Just this once," she told herself. "Until we leave," she said. "Then you tell me the truth." "Deal." He signaled the barkeep, who came scurrying over with a speed that suggested Jasper was someone important. "Wine for the lady, whiskey for me, and we'll take the private booth in the back." The barkeep's eyes went wide. "Of course, Lord." "Just Jasper tonight?" he interrupted smoothly. "Lord." Ella's stomach flipped. What had she just agreed to? But Jasper was already standing, offering his hand. She took it, and the moment their skin touched, something electric shot up her arm. She saw his eyes widen, fractionally, felt his fingers tighten around hers. He'd felt it too. He led her through the crowd, his hand warm and solid around hers. The whispers followed them, but they sounded different now, not pitying or confused, but fascinated. Who was this man who'd claimed the abandoned girl? Who was she, that someone like him would want her? The private booth was tucked away in the back corner, separated from the main room by heavy curtains. Once they were inside, the noise of the tavern muted to a dull roar. Jasper released her hand slowly, as if reluctant, gestured for her to sit. Ella slid into the booth, hyper-aware of how close the space was, how intimate. The bench wrapped around in a semicircle, and when Jasper sat beside her, not across, but beside, their thighs nearly touched. "So," she said, trying to sound calmer than she felt. "Who are you hiding from?" "Not hiding, evading." He accepted the drinks from a serving girl who looked terrified to be near him. "There's a difference." "Sounds like semantics." That almost smile again. "Perhaps." Ella sipped her wine. It was better than what she'd had before, richer, deeper. She wondered what it meant that he'd ordered for her without asking. Presumptuous, but somehow comforting. "Your scar," Jasper said quietly. "May I ask how you got it?" She tensed. Most people pretended not to see it. "Why?" "Because I'm curious." He turned toward her, his attention absolute. "Scars like that tell stories." "It's not a good story, Jasper." "I didn't assume it was, but I'd still like to hear it." Ella studied him, the way he watched her, intense but not invasive, interested but not intrusive, like he really wanted to know, not just to satisfy idle curiosity. "An accident," she said finally. "When I was young, same accident that broke my wolf." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "You can't shift." "I can't." The words were bitter on her tongue. "Haven't been able to since I was 12. She waited for the usual reaction, the awkward sympathy, the subtle drawing back, the realization that she was defective. Instead, Jasper said, "That must be lonely." The simplicity of it, the accuracy, made her throat tighten. No one had ever put it quite like that before. "Yes," she whispered. "It is." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "The man who left you tonight, he saw the scar? I made the mistake of pushing my hair back. He couldn't get away fast enough." Jasper's expression darkened. "Then he's not just a fool, he's a coward. Or sensible. Who wants damaged goods?" His hand stopped mid-reach for his drink. When he looked at her, something fierce burned in his eyes. "Don't. You're not damaged. You don't really know me, Jasper. Well, you're sitting here with a stranger instead of running away in tears, so I know you have more courage than any of those people out there who were whispering about you." His eyes burned into hers. "You're beautiful to me, scar and all." Ella's breath caught. "You're saying that because—" "I'm saying it because it's true." He reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers brushed her cheek, and that electric spark jumped between them again, stronger this time. He tucked her hair back gently, fully exposing the scar, his eyes never leaving hers. "This mark? It means you survived something that should have killed you. That's not weakness, Ella. That's a unique kind of strength." Her heart was pounding so hard she thought he must be able to hear it. His hand lingered near her face, his thumb tracing, feather-light, along the edge of the scar. The touch sent heat spiraling through her body, pooling low in her belly. She'd never felt anything like this, never wanted someone's hands on her quite this badly. "I have scars, too," Jasper continued quietly. "Not on my face, but they're there." She looked up at him. "What kind of scars?" "The kind you get from being someone you're not proud of." His jaw tightened. "From doing things that seemed necessary at the time but kept you awake at night after." There was pain in his voice, old and deep. Ella recognized it because she carried her own version. Tell me about you, she said, desperate to shift the conversation. Where are you from? North, very north. That's awfully vague. He shrugged. I'm a vague person. She narrowed her eyes. You said you'd tell me the truth. I did. And I will when we leave. He took a drink of his whiskey. But we have time before then. Tell me more about you first. There's not much to tell. I'm a Collins. My father was Beta of Greythorn before he died. My sister is mated to a good man. I work in my mother's shop, selling herbs and remedies. She shrugged. Nothing exciting. Do you like it? The shop work? No one ever asked her that. It's fine. It's what I'm good at. That's not what I asked. Ella paused for a moment, then decided to be honest. No, I don't like it. I feel small there, like I'm waiting for my life to actually start. What would you rather do? I don't know. Something that matters. Something bigger than grinding herbs and mixing salves for wolves who look through me like I'm not really there. Jasper was watching her with that intense focus again. Before she could respond, a commotion erupted in the main room, shouting, the shatter of breaking glass. Jasper went tense, his hand moving to his belt, where, oh God, was that a blade? One of the warriors from his table appeared at the curtain. My lord, we should— I'm not a lord tonight, Jasper said sharply. The warrior's eyes flicked to Ella, then back. Apologies, sir, but I heard. Jasper stood in one fluid motion. Stay with her. Wait, Ella said, grabbing his arm. What's happening? He looked down at her hand on his arm, then back to her face. Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes. Nothing you need to worry about. I'll be right back. He disappeared through the curtain before she could protest. The warrior, a mountain of a man with a scarred face, took up position near the booth entrance. Ella sat there, her heart racing, wondering what she'd gotten herself into. Minutes passed. The shouting died down. Ella could hear Jasper's voice, low and commanding, though she couldn't make out words. Then he was back, sliding into the booth beside her. His expression was darker than before. What was that? She asked. Nothing important. You're lying. He gave her a sharp look, then surprisingly nodded. You're right. I'm lying. But I need you to trust me when I say you're safer not knowing. That's not exactly reassuring. He reached for his whiskey, but his hand stopped midair. His gaze fixed on her wineglass, and every muscle in his body tensed like a wolf scenting danger. Ella, did you drink any of that? What? No, not since— Why? He grabbed her glass, held it up to the light. His expression turned deadly. Get up, now. Your wine's been poisoned. The world tilted. What? Jasper was already moving, pulling her to her feet, positioning himself between her and the curtain. Rafe! He barked at the warrior. Lock down the tavern. No one leaves. And find me whoever was in the kitchen in the last 10 minutes. Rafe disappeared. Ella's hands were shaking. I don't understand. Why would someone— I don't know yet. Jasper's voice was steel. But I'm going to find out. He kept her behind him as they moved through the tavern. The crowd had gone silent, watching. His other warrior, a blond man with cold eyes, appeared at his side. The barkeep swears no one touched it after the serving girl delivered it, the warrior said, but the girl is gone, slipped out during the commotion. Jasper's jaw clenched. Find her. Who are you? Ella whispered. He looked back at her, and something in his expression shifted, became resigned, regretful even. Jasper Torrin, he said, and his voice carried the weight of authority she'd only felt hints of before. Alpha King of the Northern Territories. The air rushed out of Ella's lungs. Alpha King. Not just any alpha. The most powerful wolf in 5 territories. The one they called the Iron Wolf, whose reputation was built on blood, war, and ruthless efficiency. The one with a very, very dark past. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner," he said. He stopped, shook his head. "It doesn't matter. Right now, we need to get you somewhere safe." "Safe from what? Why would anyone want to poison me?" "That is exactly what I intend to find out," Jasper said grimly. He led her toward the door, his warriors flanking them. The crowd pressed back, and Ella realized they were all staring at her with new eyes. The pity was replaced with utter fear. Outside, the night air was cold and sharp. Horses waited, massive destriers that stamped and snorted. Jasper lifted her onto one before she could protest, then swung up behind her. His arm came, around her waist, solid and secure. "Where are we going?" she asked. "My stronghold. It's about an hour's ride." His breath was warm against her ear. "You'll be safe there until we figure out what's happening. I need to tell my sister. We'll send word, I promise." His arm tightened fractionally. "Ella, I swear to you, I won't let anything happen to you." She should be terrified and protesting, but instead she found herself leaning back slightly, accepting the shelter of his body. Not because she needed rescuing, she'd survived on her own just fine, but because for once, someone was acting like her survival actually mattered, even if she had no idea why someone would want her dead. They rode through the forest in tense silence, the warriors scouting ahead and behind. Ella tried to process everything. An hour ago, she'd been sitting alone, humiliated. Now she was riding with the Alpha King, fleeing a poisoning attempt, headed toward a stronghold she'd only heard about in stories. "You felt it, didn't you?" Jasper said suddenly. "When we touched, in the tavern." Her breath caught. "Yes. I need to tell you something, but you're not going to believe me. Try me. My night can't get much stranger." He was quiet for a long moment, then whispered, "You're my mate, Ella." She twisted to look at him, nearly unseating them both. His arm tightened, steadying her. "Sorry, say that again?" "The bond. I felt it the moment we touched." His voice roughened. "And I know how that sounds, like convenient fate. But Ella, I was already pulled toward you before I knew. I watched the way you held yourself together even though you were hurting, the way you looked at that empty chair like you were used to disappointment but refused to let it define you." His hand tightened on the reins. Then our hands met, and it was like every question I didn't know I was asking suddenly had an answer. Ella's mind reeled. "That's not possible, Jasper. I don't have a wolf. I can't have a mate." "Bond. Apparently you can. I know this is overwhelming, but I needed you to know. Needed you to understand why I'm not letting you out of my sight until we figure out who tried to kill you." "Because of a bond?" "Because you're mine." The word came out fierce, possessive. "Bond or not, I'm not letting anything happen to you." Ella stared at him, saw the truth burning in his eyes. "This is insane," she whispered. "I know. You're the Alpha King. I'm a broken wolf from a minor pack. This doesn't make any sense." "None of it makes sense." His hand splayed against her stomach, holding her secure against him. "But it's true anyway." The pragmatic side of her, the part that had learned to expect disappointment, to protect herself from hope, wanted to reject this absolutely ludicrous claim that she, Ella Collins, the girl nobody wanted, could be bonded to the most powerful alpha alive. But the part of her that he'd awakened tonight, the part that had been dormant and invisible for so long, whispered that it was true. She'd felt the way her pulse jumped when he looked at her, the strange certainty that leaning back in his arms was exactly where she was supposed to be. I felt it too, she admitted quietly. The pull. I don't know what I thought. His breath released slowly, like he'd been holding it. You believe me? I believe you felt something, whether it's the mate bond or just, I don't know, chemistry? She shook her head. I can't think about this right now. Someone just tried to kill me. Fair. A pause. For what it's worth, I've never felt anything like this before. With anyone. Something in his voice, vulnerable, almost uncertain, made her soften. How many women have you been with? Ella. I'm serious. You're a king. You must have... None that mattered. He said it quietly. None that felt like you. They rode in silence after that, but it felt different now. Ella was hyper-aware of every point of contact. His arm around her waist, his chest against her back, his thighs bracketing hers. He was warm and solid and dangerous, and she was starting to understand why every nerve in her body seemed to light up when he was near. The mate bond. If it was real, if it wasn't just some strange attraction or wish fulfillment or... Stop overthinking, Jasper murmured. I can practically hear your thoughts. Hard not to overthink when my entire world just turned upside down. I know the feeling. The stronghold appeared through the trees, a massive stone fortress built into the side of a mountain, torches blazing along the walls. It was beautiful and intimidating in equal measure, exactly the kind of place an alpha king would call home. They rode through gates that swung open at their approach, into a courtyard bustling with guards and servants. Jasper dismounted first, then reached up for Ella. His hands spanned her waist as he lifted her down, and for a moment they stood there, his hands still on her, her face level, with his chest. She tilted her head back and met his eyes. Thank you for tonight, she said. You don't need to thank me. His thumb brushed along her waist, a barely there touch that sent heat spiraling through her. I'm just sorry your evening went sideways. Come on, let's get you inside. He led her through corridors of stone and timber, past startled servants who bowed low at the sight of their king. Ella felt desperately out of place in her simple dress, with her scarred face and her shaking hands. Jasper brought her to a suite of rooms that were larger than her entire house. A fire already burned in the hearth. The bed was enormous, large enough for two, though she tried not to think about that. You'll stay here tonight, he said. My rooms are just down the hall if you need anything. Your rooms? She turned to him. Jasper, I don't think I belong here. I should go home. Not until we know you're safe. His expression was implacable. Someone tried to kill you tonight, Ella. That's not an accident. Until I know why, until I know the threat is gone, you're staying here where I can protect you. We barely know each other. You're my mate. That's all that matters. To you, maybe. She wrapped her arms around herself. What if I don't want this? What if I don't want to be someone's mate, especially someone like you? He went very still. Someone like me? A king, a warrior, someone with a reputation for... She trailed off. For violence? His voice was flat. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. He moved toward the door, his shoulders rigid. You're right to be wary. I've done things I'm not proud of, been someone I'd rather forget. But I swear to you, Ella, whatever I was before, I would never hurt you. I didn't think you would. I just don't understand why I'm suddenly a target. I've been unremarkable all my life. He crossed back to her in 2 strides, taking her shoulders gently. You're not unremarkable. Not to me. And clearly not to whoever tried to poison you. His eyes searched hers. Will you stay? Just for tonight? Let me figure out what's happening. She could insist on going home, back to her small, safe life where nobody tried to poison her and dangerous men didn't look at her like that. But his hand was still on her shoulder, warm and solid, and some reckless part of her wanted to know what would happen if she stayed. One night, she said finally. Relief crossed his face. That's great. He started to leave, then paused at the door. Ella? What I said before, about the bond. I'm not asking you to accept it. I'm not asking you to feel anything you don't feel. I just needed you to know the truth. Why did you really approach me? She asked. Before you felt the bond. What drew you to me? He was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice was lower, rougher. I saw your date leave, saw the way you held yourself together even though you were hurting. His gaze dropped to her mouth, then back, up. And I couldn't look away. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating off him. You want to know what I saw? A woman who refused to shrink, who sat there with her chin up and fire in her eyes, daring the world to try her again. I've been around power my whole life. I know what it looks like. And you, sitting there alone, still standing after being knocked down. He exhaled sharply, his eyes darkening. You were the most beautiful person in that room, and I wanted... He trailed off, but the way he was looking at her finished the sentence. Ella's throat tightened. Sleep well, Jasper said softly. Then he was gone, the door closing quietly behind him. Ella stood there for a long time, her heart racing, her mind whirling. Then she crossed to the window and looked out at the moonlit mountains. Somewhere out there, someone wanted her dead. And here, in this impossible place, the Alpha King claimed she was his mate. How did her life get so complicated? She couldn't sleep. Ella lay in the massive bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind refusing to quiet. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Jasper's face, felt his hands on her waist, heard his voice saying, "You're mine," with that fierce certainty. The mate bond. It seemed impossible. She didn't even have a wolf. How could she have a mate? Around midnight, she gave up on sleep and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, padded barefoot to the window. The stronghold was quiet, just the occasional sound of guards changing shifts below. A soft knock made her jump. Ella, are you awake? She opened the door. Jasper stood there in the dim hallway, still dressed but looking rumpled, tired. His hair was disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. I'm sorry, he said. I know it's late. I needed to check on you. I couldn't sleep either. Something passed between them, an understanding. May I come in? He asked. She found herself stepping back, letting him enter. He crossed to the hearth, prodding the fire back to life. The flames cast dancing shadows across his face, highlighting the sharp angles, the barely controlled tension in his frame. My men found the serving girl, he said without preamble. She's dead, throat slit, left in an alley 3 streets from the tavern. Horror washed through Ella. Oh God. Whoever's behind this is serious, professional. He turned to face her. Ella, I need you to think. Is there anyone who would want to hurt you? Anyone with a grudge? Anything unusual that's happened recently? No, I'm nobody. I don't have enemies. Everyone has enemies, Ella. Well, I don't. Frustration crept into her voice. I work in a shop. I keep my head down. I barely even talk to people outside my family. Who would possibly want me dead? Jasper studied her. Tell me about your father. She blinked at the subject change. My father? What does he have to do with anything? You said he was Beta, that he died. How? It was an accident, 8 years ago. The memories were hazy, painful. There was an attack. Rogues, we thought. He was killed. I was with him. That's how I got the scar. How I lost my wolf. You were there when he died? Yes. We were out riding. They came out of nowhere. Her hands clenched at the memory. Everything after that is blurry. I remember pain, blood, my father shouting something. Then nothing until I woke up 2 days later and my wolf was gone. Jasper's expression had gone very intent. What was your father investigating before he died? How do you know he was investigating anything? Because betas don't get killed in random attacks. Not the good ones anyway. And your father was Beta of Greythorn. He would have been smart, capable. If rogues killed him, they got either very lucky or they were sent. The implication sent ice through her veins. You think he was murdered? I think it's possible. He moved closer. Did he ever mention anyone threatening him? Any problems in the pack? Ella's mind raced back. Those last few weeks before the attack, her father had been distracted, worried. She'd asked him what was wrong, but he'd just smiled and said it was pack business, nothing for her to worry about. He was stressed, she said slowly, meeting with people late at night, riding out at odd hours, but he never told me why. Did he leave anything behind? Papers? A journal? She trailed off. There was something. A leather-bound book her father had given her the morning before he died. She'd thought it was just stories. He'd always told her bedtime stories. But later, when she'd tried to read it, the writing had been strange. She'd put it away and tried to forget about it. Tried to forget everything about those final terrible days. There's a journal, she admitted. He gave it to me. I'd almost forgotten about it. I tried to read it once, years ago, but the writing didn't make sense. Jasper's eyes lit with fierce intensity. Where is it? My room at home. But it's just rambling, Jasper. Stories and notes that don't connect. Or writing that's deliberately obscured. He crossed to her, taking her hands. Ella, if your father was investigating something dangerous, if he left you evidence, that could be why someone wants you dead. You think he was killed because of what he knew, and now they think I have it? Yes. But I don't know anything. I never read the journal properly. I don't know what it says. They don't know that. His grip tightened. We need to get that journal. If it contains what I think it does, it might tell us who killed your father and who's coming after you. Ella, I think you've been in danger for years without knowing it. His voice gentled. But you're safe now. I swear it. She wanted to believe him, wanted to lean into his strength, his certainty. But her father's voice echoed in her head. If something's too good to be true, figure out the price. Then figure out who's paying it. Why does this matter to you? She whispered. You have territories to run, wars to fight. I'm just a broken girl from a minor pack. Because you're not broken. He said it fiercely. And because... He stopped, drew a breath. Because the moment I saw you, something in me recognized something in you. Before the bond, before I knew your name, I looked at you and I thought, there she is. Tears pricked her eyes. That's not real. It's real to me. His thumb stroked across her knuckles. I know you're scared. I know I'm asking you to trust someone with a bloody past. But Ella, I swear on every god there is, I will keep you safe. I will find out who's doing this, and I will make them pay for what they did to your father. The promise in his voice, dark and absolute, made something warm bloom in her chest. I want to help, she said. If my father left me evidence, if there's something I can do, then we'll do it together. He lifted one of her hands to his lips, pressed, a kiss to her knuckles. The gesture was old-fashioned, courtly, and devastatingly intimate. But first, you need to sleep. Dawn comes early, and we have work to do. I don't think I can sleep. Then let me stay. At her startled look, he added quickly, just to keep watch. I'll sit by the fire. You'll be safe, and maybe knowing someone's here will help. It was improper, reckless. Everything her mother had taught her about propriety said she should refuse, but she didn't want him to leave. All right, she said softly. He settled into the chair by the hearth, his long legs stretched out before him. Ella climbed back into bed, cocooned in blankets, watching him through the firelight. Jasper? Yes. Tell me something true, something no one else knows. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I'm afraid of being my father. What was he like? Cruel, brutal. He believed strength was everything, and kindness was weakness. He ruled through fear, and he taught me to do the same. His voice was rough. I became good at it, and now sometimes I look in the mirror and I see him looking back. But you're trying to be different? Trying, not always succeeding. He turned his head to look at her. What about you? Tell me something true. I'm afraid of being invisible, she admitted, of going through my whole life without mattering to anyone. You matter to me. The words hung in the air between them, weighted with meaning. Ella's eyes grew heavy. The warmth of the fire, the sense of safety with Jasper there, it was pulling her under. Her last thought before sleep claimed her was that she could get used to this, the feeling of being protected, of being seen, of mattering to someone like him. She woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of food. Jasper was gone, but a tray sat on the table by the window, bread, cheese, fruit, and tea. A note lay beside it in bold, angular script. Eat. I'll return within the hour. Jasper. Ella ate mechanically, her mind already racing ahead to what came next. They needed the journal, which meant going back to Graythorn, back to her house where... A knock interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she called. A woman entered, tall, blonde, with the bearing of a warrior. Lady Collins, I'm Sienna, captain of the King's Guard. His Majesty asked me to attend to you while he's occupied. I'm not a lady, Ella said automatically. Sienna's lips quirked. You're under the King's protection. That makes you a lady, like it or not. She gestured to a bundle of clothing she carried. I brought you something more practical to wear. If we're riding to Graythorn today, you'll want trousers and boots. How did you know we're riding to Graythorn? Because His Majesty has been barking orders since dawn, and half of them involve securing your family home. Sienna laid out the clothes, soft leather trousers, a tunic, riding boots. He's assembling a guard detail as we speak. Ella's stomach flipped. A guard detail seems excessive. Someone tried to kill you. Excessive doesn't exist in His Majesty's vocabulary when it comes to threats. Sienna paused. I've never seen him like this. He cares about you. You've known him long? 10 years, since he took the throne. Sienna's expression softened slightly. He's a good man, whatever you've heard about him. The stories about the Iron Wolf, they're not entirely true. Or they're true of who he was, not who he's trying to be. Why are you telling me this? Well, you look at him like you're waiting for him to become a monster. Sienna met her eyes. He won't. Not with you. Before Ella could respond, Sienna left, closing the door softly behind her. Ella changed into the borrowed clothes, They fit reasonably well. Sienna must have a good eye. The leather was supple and well made, clearly expensive. She braided her hair back, then paused at the mirror. The scar stood out starkly in the morning light. She reached up to cover it with her hair, then stopped. Jasper had called it beautiful, had traced it with reverence, not revulsion. She left her hair back. Jasper was waiting in the courtyard with 6 mounted warriors when she descended. His eyes tracked her approach, something heated flickering in their depths when he looked her up and down. "Those suit you," he said, his voice slightly rough. "Sienna has good taste." Sienna chose well. A hint of a smile played at his mouth. "Though I suspect you could make anything look that good." He moved closer, lowering his voice. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I expected. You?" "I didn't." At her concerned look, he shook his head. "I'm used to it. I was thinking." About how we're going to keep you alive." He helped her mount, his hands warm and steady on her waist. "We're going to ride fast and hard. Stay close to me. If anything happens, you do exactly what I say. Understood?" "I'm not fragile." "I know, but humor me anyway." They rode out as the sun climbed higher, a small army moving through the forest. Ella had never been surrounded by this much protection, this much focused attention. It was overwhelming yet comforting in equal measure. Jasper stayed close, always within arm's reach. Occasionally his hand would brush her leg as their horses moved in tandem, small touches that felt both accidental and deliberate. "Tell me about Lord Earl," Ella said suddenly. Jasper's expression darkened. "What about him?" "He's the beta of Greythorn now. Took over after my father died. Do you know him?" "I know of him. We've met at council meetings." His jaw tightened. "I don't trust him." "Why not?" "Instinct. He's too smooth, too political, and he rose to power very conveniently after your father's death." The implication made Ella's blood run cold. "You think he was involved?" "I think it's worth investigating." He glanced at her. "Did your father and Earl get along?" "I don't know. I was young, and I didn't pay attention to politics." She tried to remember. "My father never spoke poorly of him, but I don't think they were friends either." "We'll need to be careful. If Earl is involved, he'll know we're coming. He'll be watching." They reached Greythorn as afternoon shadows lengthened. The pack's main settlement was bustling with activity, wolves going about their daily business, unaware that their beta might be a murderer. Ella's house sat on the outskirts, small and tidy with a garden her mother tended obsessively. Her stomach knotted as they dismounted. "We should be quick," Jasper said. "In and out." But her mother was home. Ella heard her gasp as they entered, saw her pale at the sight of the Alpha King in her tiny sitting room. "Ella, what's happened? Why is—" "I'm fine, Mother. I just need to get something from my room." "You can't just disappear all night and then show up with—" Her mother's eyes fixed on Jasper with something like terror. "Your Majesty, forgive me, I didn't realize—" "No apology necessary, Mrs. Collins." Jasper's voice was surprisingly gentle. "Your daughter is under my protection. I'll explain everything once she's retrieved what we came for." Ella escaped to her room before her mother could ask more questions. The small space felt cramped after the luxury of the stronghold, her narrow bed, her simple wardrobe, her shelf of books and trinkets from childhood. The journal was exactly where she'd left it 5 years ago, hidden in a box beneath her bed, under old letters and ribbons she'd never had the heart to throw away. Her hands shook as she pulled it out. The leather was worn, the pages yellowed with age. Her father's handwriting covered every surface, dense, cramped, urgent. She brought it back to the sitting room where Jasper was making awkward conversation with her mother about the weather. His relief when she appeared was almost comical. "Got it," she said. "Good. We should—" A knock at the door interrupted him. Ella's mother answered it, and Lord Earl himself stepped inside. He was a handsome man, silver-haired and distinguished, with the kind of charm that made people trust him instinctively. His eyes swept the room, landing on Jasper with barely concealed surprise. "Your Majesty, what an unexpected honor." His gaze shifted to Ella, and something cold flickered in his eyes before his expression smoothed into concern. "Ella, my dear, I heard you were involved in some trouble at the Gilded Stag last night. I came to check on you." "How did you hear about that?" Jasper's voice was mild, but Ella heard the edge beneath. News travels fast in a small pack. Earl smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Someone tried to poison you, I'm told. How dreadful. I'm glad you're safe." "Is that your father's old book?" he asked, too casually. "I remember him scribbling in that thing constantly. May I see it?" "No," Jasper said flatly. Earl's smile tightened. "I only thought it might bring back memories. Robert was a good friend." "Was he?" Jasper moved subtly, positioning himself between Earl and Ella. "Because I'm starting to think Robert's death wasn't the accident everyone believes it was." Earl's pleasant expression didn't waver. "That's a serious accusation, Your Majesty." "It's an observation. One I intend to investigate thoroughly." "Of course. The king's justice must be served." Earl's gaze slid to Ella. "Though I hope you're not letting sentiment cloud your judgment. The girl's been through trauma. Sometimes grief makes us see conspiracies where there are none." "I'm right here," Ella snapped. "Don't talk about me like I'm not in the room." Earl's mask slipped for just a second, irritation flashing across his face before he smoothed it away. "Apologies, my dear. I only meant—" "We're leaving," Jasper interrupted. "Mrs. Collins, your daughter will be staying at my stronghold for the foreseeable future, for her safety." Her mother looked torn between terror and confusion. "I don't understand what's happening." "Someone's targeting Ella," Jasper said bluntly. "Until I know why and who, she's under my protection. I'll send word when it's safe for her to return." He took Ella's arm, guiding her toward the door. Earl stepped aside, but his eyes tracked the journal in her hands. "Be careful, Ella," he said softly. "The world outside Greythorn can be dangerous for a girl like you." It was a threat, thinly veiled but unmistakable. Jasper's hand tightened on her arm. "The only danger to Ella comes from those who would harm her, and I promise you, Lord Earl, anyone who tries will answer to me personally." They left before Earl could respond. Ella's heart was hammering as they mounted up, the warriors forming a protective circle around them. "It was him, wasn't it?" she said as they rode away. "He killed my father." "I think so, and now he knows we have the journal." Jasper's expression was grim. "He'll come for it, for you. We need to move fast." Back at the stronghold, they locked themselves in Jasper's private study. The room was masculine and spare, walls lined with books and maps, a massive desk covered in papers, weapons mounted above the hearth. Jasper cleared the desk, spreading out the journal. Ella leaned over his shoulder, so close she could feel the heat radiating from him, smell the cedar and smoke scent that clung to his skin. "It's coded," he muttered, tracing the strange symbols that peppered the text. "But look, here. Your father was documenting meetings, names, dates, locations." "What kind of meetings?" "I don't know yet, but see this?" He pointed to a recurring symbol, a twisted spiral. "That appears everywhere. It might be a signature or a mark of some kind. They worked through the afternoon, piecing together fragments. Slowly, a picture emerged. Robert Collins had been investigating a conspiracy within the Pack Network, powerful wolves trafficking in forbidden magic. Magic that corrupted, that twisted wolves into something monstrous. Blood magic, Jasper said quietly. It's been banned for centuries, the kind of power that costs lives to create. And my father found evidence of it? More than that, he found names. Jasper flipped pages, pointing out encoded references. Look, these are all pack leaders, alphas, betas, wolves with power and influence. Earl's name is here, Ella breathed, multiple times. Yes. Jasper's voice was hard. Your father was building a case. He was going to expose them all, and I believe they killed him for it. Ella's hands clenched into fists. Why didn't he tell anyone? Why keep it a secret? Probably because he didn't know who he could trust. If the conspiracy went as high as these names suggest. Jasper met her eyes. He couldn't risk it, not until he had irrefutable proof. He gave it to me. Her voice cracked. He died protecting this information. He died protecting you, Jasper corrected gently. The journal was insurance, but you were what mattered to him. I'd bet anything the attack that killed him was meant to kill you both, to wipe out any trace of what he knew. But I survived. I think he did something to save you. Jasper studied her. Ella, what do you remember about that day? Try to go back. She closed her eyes, forcing herself back to memories she'd buried deep. We were riding, talking about nothing important. Then they came out of the woods. Men, wolves, I couldn't tell. Everything happened so fast. What did your father do? He pushed me behind him, started fighting. One of them got past him, came at me with a blade. Her hand drifted unconsciously to her scar. I remember pain, my father shouting something, words I didn't understand. Then blinding white light, and then nothing. Jasper had gone very still. Words you didn't understand. What language did it sound like? I'm not sure. It sounded old, ancient. Ella. His voice was urgent now. When you woke up, your wolf was gone? Yes, the healers said the trauma broke something in me, that I'd never shift again. Or, Jasper said slowly, your father used magic to hide your wolf, to bind it so completely that no one could sense it, so completely that even you couldn't feel it. She stared at him. Why would he do that? If you were part of a powerful bloodline, if you had the kind of magic these conspirators were hunting, he would have done anything to hide you from them. But I don't have magic. I'm powerless. Are you? He reached out, taking her hand. That familiar spark jumped between them, stronger than before. The mate bond shouldn't be possible for someone without a wolf. But you feel it, don't you? She couldn't deny it. I do. So your wolf isn't gone. It's just sleeping. His thumb stroked across her knuckles. Hidden by magic so old and powerful that even death couldn't break it completely. Hope and fear warred in Ella's chest. How do we know for sure? We find someone who can see past the binding, someone who can tell us what you really are. And if you're right, if my wolf is just locked away, then we free it. His eyes burned into hers. And we use your father's evidence to bring down every single wolf involved in this cover-up. A knock at the door interrupted them. Sienna entered, her expression tight. Riders approaching, flying Earl's colors. Jasper swore. How many? 20, maybe more. They're armed for battle. He's moving faster than I expected. Jasper stood, already reaching for weapons. Get the stronghold secured. Full defensive positions. No one in or out without my authorization. Already done. Sienna's eyes flicked to Ella. She should be in the inner chambers. Safest place in the stronghold. No, Ella said. I'm not hiding while people fight because of me. Ella. She stood, facing Jasper. This is my fight too. My father died for this. I won't cower in a locked room while you face the consequences. Something fierce and proud flashed in his eyes. Okay, stay close. To me. Do what I say. And Ella? He cupped her face, his touch gentle despite the tension in his frame. Stay alive. That's all I care about. She covered his hand with hers. You too. They armed themselves quickly, Jasper with multiple blades and Ella with a short sword she barely knew how to use. But Jasper showed her the basics in terse, efficient movements, his hands guiding hers through the forms. It's not about strength, he said. It's about speed and positioning. Keep moving. Don't let them corner you. And if it comes down to it, go for the throat or the gut, nothing in between. She nodded, trying to quell her terror. They made their way to the battlements. Earl's forces were arrayed outside the gates, wolves in fighting form and human mercenaries with crossbows and pikes. Earl himself sat astride a massive warhorse, looking calm and collected. Jasper Torrin, he called out. I've come to collect property stolen from Greythorn Pack. Send out the girl and the journal, and we can resolve this peacefully. The girl has a name, Jasper shouted back, and she's under my protection. Leave now, Earl, and I'll consider letting you live. Earl's pleasant mask finally shattered. You're harboring a criminal. Ella Collins is wanted for the theft of Pack property and the murder of her own father. Gasps rippled through the stronghold. Ella felt like she'd been punched. That's a lie, she gasped. Of course it is, Jasper said grimly. He's trying to turn this around, make you the villain. She killed Robert in a fit of madness, Earl continued, his voice carrying across the courtyard. The trauma broke her mind along with her wolf. She's been delusional ever since, making up conspiracy theories to justify her crime. No one here believes that, Jasper called back. Perhaps not, but will the Pack Council? Earl smiled, cold and cruel. I have witnesses prepared to testify. I have evidence of her instability. All I need is the girl. You'll never have her. Then I'll take her. Earl raised his hand. Archers! Jasper yanked Ella behind the battlements as arrows whistled overhead. She heard them thud into wood and stone, heard someone scream. The battle began in earnest. Earl's forces charged the gates while Jasper's warriors rained down arrows and stones from above. The clash of steel and snarling of shifted wolves filled the air with violence. Jasper fought like a demon, his blade flashing in the dying light. Ella stayed back as he'd ordered, but she kept the sword ready, her heart in her throat every time an enemy got close to him. Then the gates buckled. They're through, Sienna shouted. Fall back to secondary positions. Chaos erupted. Wolves poured into the courtyard, and suddenly Jasper's warriors were fighting on all sides. Ella found herself separated from Jasper, pressed against a wall as combatants surged past. A wolf broke through the line, massive, gray, eyes fixed on her with predatory intent. It lunged, and Ella brought up her sword on pure instinct. The blade connected, drawing blood, but not enough to stop it. The wolf's jaws opened wide. Then Jasper was there, crashing into the wolf with inhuman speed. They rolled in a tangle of fur and fury, and when they separated, Jasper was covered in blood, but the wolf was no longer moving. Are you hurt? He demanded, grabbing her shoulders. No, I'm Jasper, behind you. He spun, catching another attacker mid-leap. His movements were brutal and efficient, No wasted motion, no mercy. This was the Iron Wolf everyone feared, the warrior king who'd carved out his territory through blood and conquest. And he was terrifying, but he was also fighting for her. "We need to pull back," he said, breathing hard. "Get you somewhere defensible." They fought their way toward the inner keep, Jasper cutting down anyone who got close. Sienna and her warriors joined them, forming a protective circle around Ella. They made it to the great hall just as a howl split, the air, Alpha Command, resonating with power. The fighting paused for a heartbeat. Earl strode through the broken gates in human form, flanked by his lieutenants. Blood stained his clothes, and his eyes were wild. "Enough," he roared. "Jasper Torin, face me. This ends now." Jasper pushed Ella behind him. "Gladly." Earl laughed, harsh and mocking. "How noble. The king willing to die for a broken wolf. But tell me, your majesty, does she know what you really are? Does she know about the villages you burned, the wolves you slaughtered, the blood on your hands?" Jasper went rigid. "Oh yes," Earl continued, sensing weakness. "Everyone knows about the Iron Wolf, the tyrant, the monster. And you think you're better than me?" He spat. "At least I'm honest about what I am." "You're a murderer," Jasper said quietly. "You killed a good man who was trying to expose your crimes. You trafficked in blood magic. You're hunting his daughter to cover your tracks. That's what you are. You have no proof." "I have the journal." "Please, that proves nothing. Rambling about conspiracies, coded nonsense, no council will convict on that." "Then let them decide." Jasper raised his voice. "I call for a formal investigation, by the full Pack Council, into Robert Collins' death and Lord Earl's activities. I have more alpha allies than you can imagine. You're alone in this, Torin," Earl sneered. "He's not alone." The voice came from behind Earl. A figure stepped through the gates, an older woman, silver-haired and regal, with power radiating from her like heat from a forge. "Alpha Matriarch Reese," Jasper said, surprise clear in his voice. "I've been watching Earl for months," the woman said coldly, "waiting for him to make a mistake, and here it is, attacking a king's stronghold, making wild accusations." She looked at Earl with contempt. "You've overplayed your hand." Other figures emerged from the shadows, alphas, betas, wolves, from a dozen different packs. "We heard rumors," one of them said, "about Robert's death, about the conspiracy. We didn't believe it until tonight, until we saw you here." Earl's face went pale. "This is a trick, a trap." "This is justice," Matriarch Reese said. "You're under arrest, Earl. You and every wolf who serves you. The council will hear evidence, and if you're found guilty, you'll face execution." Earl's eyes darted around, looking for an escape, finding none. Then his gaze landed on Ella, and something crazy flickered in their depths. "If I'm going down," he snarled, "I'm taking her with me." He lunged, impossibly fast, crossing the distance in a heartbeat. His hand closed around Ella's throat before anyone could react, dragging her in front of him like a shield. "Back! All of you!" His grip tightened, cutting off her air. "I'll break her neck, I swear it." Jasper froze, his face going white. "Let her go, Earl. This is between you and me." It was always about her, about what she has inside her. Earl's voice was feverish. Robert knew. He knew she was special, that her bloodline was powerful. That's why he bound her wolf, to keep her from us. But the binding is breaking. I can feel it. Ella struggled to breathe. Black spots danced across her vision. "Her father hid her," Earl continued, "but he can't protect her anymore. And once I have her power, Once I unleash what's locked inside her. Something exploded in Ella's chest, like chains snapping, a door blowing open, taking a breath after drowning for years. It was her wolf. It surged up from wherever it had been sleeping, wild and furious and powerful beyond anything she'd imagined. Light burst from her skin, the same white light she remembered from the day her father died, and Earl screamed, his hand releasing her as he was thrown backward. Ella fell to her knees, gasping. Power coursed through her, unfamiliar and overwhelming. She could feel her wolf now, fully present, a living force in her chest. Jasper was at her side, his hands on her face. "Look at me. Breathe." She looked up at him, and his eyes widened. "Your eyes are glowing," he breathed. The light intensified. Ella felt her body begin to shift, bones singing as they realigned, something wild unfurling beneath her skin. It should have hurt. Instead, it felt like remembering how to fly. When she opened her eyes, the world had sharpened into crystalline focus. She looked down at paws that were hers, and not hers. Silver fur rippling like water over muscle, white blazing along her chest and throat like captured starlight. She was larger than she should be, built for power rather than grace, every line of her speaking to something ancient and unbroken. She caught her reflection in the polished stone, eyes that didn't just glow but burned, molten and otherworldly. Not the wolf she'd been as a young child. Something fiercer. Something that had been forged in fire and absence and had emerged on the other side, transformed. Earl scrambled backward, terror on his face. "Impossible! The binding shouldn't," Ella growled, a sound that resonated with ancient power. Her father had hidden her for a reason, because she was dangerous, because men who hoarded control couldn't stomach the idea of something they could never own, never contain. She had spent 8 years learning to disappear. She was done shrinking. Jasper shifted beside her, a massive black wolf with those beautiful storm-gray eyes. Their wolves recognized each other instantly, the mate bond snapping into place with devastating certainty. Together, they advanced on Earl. He tried to run, but he only made it 3 steps before Jasper's wolf brought him down. Ella stood over him, her wolf snarling, every instinct screaming to end him, to avenge her father. "Ella," Jasper's voice in her mind, the pack bond, the mate bond, crystal clear. "Let the council decide his fate. Don't become what he is." Her wolf wanted to tear his throat out, wanted to feel his life drain away beneath her. Claws, payment for every year stolen, every lie told. But through the bloodlust, she heard her father's voice. He'd spent his life teaching her that strength wasn't about domination, that power meant choosing mercy when vengeance would be easier. He'd hidden her not to make her a weapon, but to give her the chance to be something better than the violence that had shaped their world. He wouldn't want this. Wouldn't want his death to be the thing that turned her into exactly what he'd protected her from becoming. She stepped back, her chest heaving, and let the warriors take Earl into custody. Shifted back to human form, naked and shaking, but alive. Powerful. Jasper shifted too. Someone threw him a cloak, which he immediately wrapped around her. His hands were gentle, reverent, steadying her as she came back to herself. "You're incredible," he whispered. "Did you know that?" "I have my wolf back." Her voice cracked on the last word, trembling somewhere between laughter and tears. "You have more than that. You have magic, Ella. Real magic." He pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her. "Your father hid you so well that even you didn't know what you were. What am I? Powerful. Dangerous." He pulled back, cupping her face. "Perfect." Around them, the battle had ended. Earl's forces had surrendered, and the gathered alphas were already discussing the coming tribunal. But Ella couldn't focus on any of it. All she could see was Jasper, looking at her like she'd hung the moon. "The mate bond," she said softly. "I feel it now, completely." "So do I." His voice roughened. "But Ella, I need to know. Is this what you want? I meant what I said before. Bond or not, I want you to choose me." "I do choose you." She said it clearly, meeting his eyes. "Not because of magic or destiny, but because you looked at me that first night and saw past my scar. For 8 years, I walked through the world like I was taking up too much space just by existing, like I should apologize for still being here. And then you—" She had to pause, swallow past the tightness in her throat. "You made me remember what it felt like to stand in the sun without flinching, to take up space and not feel ashamed of it." She reached for his hand, lacing their fingers together. "You gave me back pieces of myself I thought were gone forever. So yes, I choose you, because you helped me become someone I'm proud to be, and I want to spend the rest of my life doing the same for you." He kissed her then, fierce and desperate and tender all at once. Ella melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, her heart racing. The bond sang between them, warm and golden, but underneath it was something better. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jasper rested his forehead against hers. "Come north with me," he said. "Be my mate, my queen, my partner in all things." "I'm not ready to be a queen." "Then just be mine. We'll figure out the rest." She smiled against his mouth. "I can do that." The trial lasted 3 days. Earl was found guilty of murder, trafficking in blood magic, and conspiracy against the Pack Council. He was executed at dawn on the 4th day, along with 6 other conspirators, but 7 more escaped, disappearing into the wilderness before they could be apprehended, including the mastermind, a shadowy figure Earl had called the Architect, but never named. "It's not over," Jasper said quietly. They stood on the battlements, watching the sun rise over the mountains. "I know." Ella leaned into his side, his arm coming around her automatically. "My father's journal has more names, more clues. It'll take time to unravel all of it." "Time we have." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "We'll face it together." She turned to look at him, this fierce, complicated man who'd claimed her in a tavern and changed her life forever. "I'm still scared on some nights." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." He traced her fading scar with gentle fingers. "But you're not the same girl who sat alone in that tavern. You're powerful now, Ella. You're a force to be reckoned with. Because of my wolf? Because of you." He kissed her, slow and deep. "The wolf just makes you harder to kill." She laughed, and it felt good. "So what now?" she asked. "Now?" Jasper's smile was wicked. "Now I take my mate home, show her the north, teach her everything she needs to know about being a queen." "I said I wasn't ready for that." "You will be." He pulled her closer, his eyes intense. "You were born for greatness, Ella Collins. Your father knew it. I know it. Soon everyone else will too." Her old voice whispered that she was just a broken girl from a minor pack. But standing here, her wolf alive and wild in her chest, the mate bond thrumming between them, power singing through her veins, she couldn't deny it anymore. "Take me north," she said. "Show me your world." "Our world," he corrected. "From now on, everything I have is yours." They left the next morning, riding north with a small contingent of guards. Ella said goodbye to her mother and sister, promising to write, to visit when it was safe. Her sister hugged her tightly, whispering, "I'm proud of you." And Ella had to blink back tears. The journey took 5 days. 5 days of riding through wilderness more beautiful and brutal than anything Ella had ever seen. Mountains that pierced the clouds, forests so deep the sun barely reached the ground, rivers that roared with ancient power, and 5 nights of growing closer to Jasper, of learning the shape of him, his quiet humor, his fierce protectiveness, the way he looked at her like she was the only thing that mattered. They shared bedrolls by the fire, his arms around her, talking until the stars wheeled overhead. "Tell me about the North," she said one night, her back pressed against his chest. "It's beautiful, but unforgiving. The winters are brutal, and the wolves there are harder than anywhere else." His fingers traced idle patterns on her arm. "But it's home, and I think you'll love it." "Why?" "Because it doesn't care what you were, only what you are now." He pressed a kiss to her shoulder. "The North respects strength, and you have plenty of that." She turned in his arms to face him. "What if the conspirators come after us?" "Let them come." His voice went hard. "We'll be ready." She kissed him then, pouring all her gratitude and fear and hope into it. He responded with a hunger that made her dizzy, his hands sliding into her hair, his body pressing against hers. "Ella," he groaned against her mouth, "if you keep kissing me like that, I won't be able to stop." "Then don't stop." She met his eyes, letting him see her certainty. "I want this. I want you." "Are you sure?" His voice was strained. "Because once I claim you properly, there's no going back. The bond will be complete." "I'm sure." She traced the line of his jaw. "I choose you, Jasper. All of you." He kissed her again, deeper this time, and the world fell away. There was only his hands on her skin, his mouth trailing fire down her throat, the way he whispered her name like a prayer. They came together under the stars, the mate bond blazing between them, and Ella finally understood what it meant to be whole, to be seen and wanted and cherished, to matter to someone completely. Afterward, wrapped in his arms with their heartbeats slowing in tandem, Jasper murmured into her hair, "I love you. I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other, but I love you too." She said it without hesitation. "I think I started falling the moment you sat down across from me." His arms tightened. "Best blind date ever." She laughed, giddy and exhausted and perfectly content. "Definitely not what I expected." They reached his territory on the 6th day. The northern stronghold made the first one look small, a massive fortress city carved into the mountainside, with thousands of wolves living and working within its walls. The people came out to greet their king, cheering and bowing. But their eyes kept sliding to Ella with curiosity and speculation. Who was this woman riding beside their alpha? This stranger with the scarred face and the powerful aura? Jasper must have felt her tension because he leaned close. "They'll love you. Give them time." "What if they don't?" "Then they'll answer to me." He said it lightly, but she heard the steel beneath. "You're mine, Ella. That makes you theirs. They'll accept it." The castle was breathtaking. Soaring ceilings, walls hung with tapestries, windows that overlooked the entire mountain range. Servants rushed to attend them, and Jasper gave orders with calm efficiency. He showed her to a suite of rooms connected to his own. "These are yours," he said, "to do with as you please. Change anything, everything. Make it your space. It's enormous. You're going to be queen. You need space befitting your station." At her panicked look, he added quickly, "But we don't have to rush that. Take your time. Learn the territory. Meet the people. When you're ready, we'll make it official." She kissed him gratefully. "Thank you for being patient with me." "I'd wait forever for you." He said it simply, like it was fact. But right now, I need to attend to about 1,000 things I neglected while hunting conspirators. Will you be all right here? I'll manage. He left her with Sienna, who'd ridden north with them and was already organizing Ella's belongings with ruthless efficiency. So, Sienna said once they were alone, you're really doing this, becoming queen. Maybe, eventually, if I don't mess it up first. You won't. Sienna paused in her work to look at Ella directly. I've served Jasper for 10 years. He's lighter now, happier. You're good for him. He's good for me, too. Then that's all that matters. Sienna smiled. Now let's get you settled. Tomorrow we start your training. Training for what? Everything. Combat, politics, magic. You're going to need all of it. Sienna's expression turned serious. The conspirators are still out there. The architect, whoever they are, won't stop until they're caught or dead. You need to be ready. Ella nodded slowly. She'd been so focused on surviving, on accepting the mate bond, that she'd almost forgotten the larger threat. The wolves who'd killed her father, who'd tried to kill her, who were still hunting for power through blood and corruption. Then teach me, she said firmly. Teach me everything. The next weeks were a blur of activity. Ella trained with Sienna and the castle's weapons master, learning to fight properly. She studied with the pack's historian, learning northern customs and politics. And she worked with an ancient wolf named Vera, a magic user who helped her understand and control the power flowing through her veins. Your bloodline is old, Vera told her one afternoon. They sat in a tower room overlooking the mountains, practicing meditation exercises. Older than most packs can trace. The kind of power you carry was common once, before the purges. Now it's rare, precious. Is that why they want me? For my power. Partly, but also because you're a symbol. Vera's eyes were knowing. If the conspirators could control you, corrupt you, use you, it would prove their ideology. That power is the only thing that matters. That taking it by force is justified. I won't let them use me. Good. But being willing to fight isn't enough. You need to be smart, strategic. The architect is brilliant and patient. They've been building this for decades. They won't be easily defeated. Ella thought about that as she trained, as she studied, as she slowly became more comfortable in her new role. She still felt like an imposter sometimes, the broken girl playing at being powerful. But Jasper never let her doubt for long. He'd find her in the training yard and watch with pride as she took down opponents twice her size. He'd sit beside her during dinners with visiting alphas, his hand finding hers under the table when the politics got overwhelming. He'd pull her into his arms at night and whisper that she was magnificent, that she was exactly where she belonged. And slowly, Ella started to believe it. 2 months after arriving in the north, a messenger